So do you still go to Europe and stuff?
I haven't been. We're looking to do another one pretty soon, actually.
Your band?
This thing plays beautiful, Peter.
Oh, thanks. You never know until a professional takes it out, even on stage, and pushes it. That's when you know a guitar's good. That guitar will never be played like that again. Awesome.
Yeah, man.
Awesome.
Hey, everybody. I'm Jimi Bell. Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Strings right here at RHCTV Studios, otherwise known as Jimi Bell Studios.
I like it.
I bought the place from your cousin. Yeah. I am thrilled to have as my very special guest an amazing man, an amazing luthier. I haven't had a luthier on the show yet, so it's a real treat. He's not just
thanks.
a luthier, a guitar builder. Luthiers can be just somebody that repairs guitars and things like that.
Luthier is, I consider, more toward the acoustic area.
Yeah.
The Martins and all those. Guitar builder is what I basically am.
First off, this is Peter Occineri, folks, and I just wanted to say hello.
How you doing?
First, a couple things before we get going. I understand that you and Andy are cousins. Is that true, the owner of this building?
Andy's mother and my mother were sisters.
Really? So you've had to kind of grow up with Andy?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of my condolences. I feel bad. I mean, honest. I've known Andy all my life, so I know what you probably went through.
I couldn't believe when he told me that. He came over and says, I'm looking to make a guitar for Jimi Bell. And what it's shaped like a bell. I go,
Oh, yeah, that's right. He told me about that. Of course, he never came through with it. But
I had a couple demos and it just did not look good. They just didn't look good. No, Andy, we grew up with him. I knew his father really. His father's a great guy. Yeah, it's a small world.
It really is. And, we met, we'll get into this, but we met at, of course, your incredible guitar shows that you put on everywhere. Let's let the people know how you actually got into this. So your family was in the furniture business? Is this what?
Okay, the whole thing started. My father worked in Wethersfield when he came over from Italy. Left the war. They had a lot of guys worked in Wethersfield. Okay, now
right.
And West Hartford was not built up at the time, and there was a big where there is a shopping mall. I don't know where it was now, but it used to be Wethersfield Lumber, and because it was right along the railroad tracks.
Okay.
And that's basically where all the lumber companies were, because the lumber came in. They all worked there. They all left and started their own business. West Hartford Stairs used to work there. And my father said he's going to start his own business. I don't know, he must have been like 35. Bought some land in Bloomfield, 1960, broke ground and been there. And I worked. That's the only job I ever had.
Really?
Working, yeah. So he would have I worked from 65 when I was like 10, 11 till now. But he would have all Italians or Portuguese working with them.
Yeah.
They all would come in because they all spoke Italian and stuff. And they were all from Europe. So they taught me a lot of stuff about woodworking, right? And I played in the band in 74. I went to Hall. And I started fixing guitars. So I brought a couple guitars back, and these guys said, no, do this, use this. And they didn't know about music. They just knew about wood and what would work, how to clamp it up, how to use it. And there was, and I said, gee, I don't know what I'm doing. And he goes, don't worry about it. We'll make it look nice and everything like that. And then eventually, I just kept working with him. Then I said, I'm going to just make my own guitar. So like early 80s, they started repairing and then started building. And then saw all the wood that was coming in. So we get 1,000 board feet of mahogany, right?
Yeah.
Now the mahogany, you'll get some pieces like that. So I would pull those aside and save those for the bodies. and then used the rest just for cabinets or whatever. And we just got working on it and doing it ever since. And then we had guys that knew how to finish, which was key.
Yeah.
You know, and they would show how to use the nitros and how to get the best finish. You know, you don't want to have too thin. You want the hardest finish, the thinnest you can possibly get.
What was, like, for example, what was kind of like the first shape guitar that you did? What did you try?
Telecaster.
A Strat body.
Telecaster body.
Oh, Telly.
Telly with the Kalamazoo neck that I had. I bought, I don't know where I got. I think I got it from the Sal shop. I think they had it hanging, just a neck, and it was the Kalamazoo neck.
Right.
And I put it on the body, and I put the top was a Formica top. I'm not kidding you. I remember it, and the other guitar player used it in the band. I don't have it anymore, but that was the first one. But working with it. The Les Paul body, to me, is the most perfect, proportioned looking guitar body.
It's a beautiful piece.
Because when they're hanging up in the spray booth and you look at them, they're just proportioned. It's perfect.
Yeah.
The Strat's great, Telly's great, but somehow this body, it just fits. It fits big guys and little guys.
I went out to dinner with Les Paul.
Did you really?
Back in the 80s. When I was endorsed with Kramer Guitars, I was with the president, Dennis Berardi, and they were going to do a photo shoot of Richie Sambora from Bon Jovi.
Yeah.
And this is when Bon Jovi was huge. So Bon Jovi was playing in New Jersey, their home, state. So we went there. We were backstage pass, and of course Les Paul was there, and I was hanging out with him. And after the show, the president of Kramer and a couple of his associates and Les Paul and myself, we all went out to dinner. And it was the weirdest thing. Like, when you meet somebody that's such an icon, that changed the whole world, the way people see guitars. And I had so many questions I wanted to ask Les Paul, and I couldn't think of one thing. Because you wanted to ask him about how he, about the electronics. There was so much. His tape on tape, his recording stuff. But, just how he, came up with the idea of pickups. And I just wanted to find out all that information. But being a guitar player and in the 80s and stuff, I was interested also in his technology, on how he played guitar. He
was a good player.
Oh, my God, he was just...
Was he approachable?
Oh, yeah, very, very kindest gentleman ever. But, when we're out to dinner, I was thinking about it, and I just said, you know what? I'm not going to bother this guy, because so we were just sitting, and we just had casual conversation. I didn't want to get into, like, hey, can you tell me? All right, kid, get away from me.
Yeah, he's probably heard a million times.
Yeah, poor guy. But, okay, so you started building guitars, and I have to say, now, I've always played, your workmanship is incredible. The wood pieces that you do, I've seen many.
That only comes from seeing wood all the time.
Well, you also, like, I've seen some pieces that you have made that aren't just a solid hunk of wood. You've combined pieces of wood that and come up with this very, I want to say like an art piece.
Yeah.
Is not just a guitar, but this beautiful art thing. Why don't you tell me the process of, okay, so we know what you could do. Okay, well, this is still an example here. You still have to glue a back onto that telly. Like there you have two different types of woods,
right.
Correct? You have a mahogany top.
Mahogany top and flame maple back.
Flame maple back. Now, when you're combining pieces of wood that go through the whole guitar, what is the process of gluing? What do you do first when you're making a body? It's you're doing the glue?
First, I get the wood I like.
Wood, yeah.
First, I like, I see something. See, the whole thing, you have to have it match up. It has to look nice,
right.
And some woods don't look nice. Sometimes I'm working on it and they don't blend. I have to take them apart and start them. But I find the ones that work good. This is a nice crotch mahogany. That worked really well.
Is that one or two pieces?
One piece on the front.
One piece on the top.
Yeah. And that was a nice, it was really pretty.
Yeah.
A crotch is a part of the tree that branches out.
Right.
And they cut it right there, and then they flip it around, and that's
Right.
how you get it. And it's all kiln dried. Then I find the back. I find what looks really nice. I could have just thrown a mahogany back on this. But I said, no, it's too pretty of a front. I want to see, I want to see the back.
Yeah, that's gorgeous.
So it makes sense.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Now, do you ever find when you're, I'm sure you do, like if you were trying to match a top, it's very important, like if you got something that's got some grain in it, I'm sure you try to get as close to keeping a flow going sometime, right?
Well, when you get a piece of mahogany, say 8 inches by 2 inches by, say, 20 inches, you take it, so you cut it right in half, and you book match it. And that's where the grain is. That's where the pretty grain is. I don't have one here, but
right.
And so it just matches perfectly. And so you glue that up. And the whole thing, you got to let the glue, everything dry completely. You can't rush time.
Yeah. Okay, so...
I let mine overnight.
Okay, well,
I glue this up overnight.
Oh, you mean like somebody that's impatient like me would glue it, then cut it and have the glue?
Yeah, people glue it, and then what happens is if you don't let it set and dry, and then when I put these two together, I use an old wine press. I did a customer. He left it there. I said, "This is perfect. It's wide enough." I built it up with a big crank, and I put the blocks on top like you would.
Yeah, like a clamp.
Right. Clamp it up. Clamp it really tight. Make sure it doesn't move. Again, 24 hours. I don't care what weather it is. Just 24 hours.
Oh, very good.
So you don't have to worry about it because you don't want it separating.
No, that's.
And then you put it on. Then you get your shape, and you put it on the bandsaw. You cut your shape, and then you start shaping it on the sander, and then you start, carving it, whatever you want to do on it.
Yeah. Hey, listen. Before we continue, we're going to take a second and do a segment of Inside the Gig Bag, and we'll be right back with Peter. I'll talk to you in a second. Everybody, welcome for another segment of Inside the Gig Bag. And this time I would like to talk to you about how I break up a scale as opposed to doing 3 notes per string, which I do a lot of, so I'm not going to say I don't do it. But I like what the sound of 2 note per string gives you. Now, most of the time when people do 2 note per strings, a lot of times you're using the your typical blues pentatonic pattern. But I like to take major scales, or minor, whatever, and break them into segments just like that, using the 2 note per string pattern. So for example, if I'm over A, and I want to get a nice, major sound, as opposed to just using your F sharp minor pentatonic, which would be your major. What I like to do there is play a D major scale, but I will break it apart as if I'm doing a pentatonic, like. To me, that's got a very cool sound. And then, of course, as you get going, it's like going down with a, going up with a 3-note per string pattern and then coming back using the 2-note. I find that to be really effective and very cool. One thing I did find purely by mistake, hold on, I got to get rid of some overdrive here, was I found that in using pentatonics, every time I'll tell you how I did this. Every time I want to find out what you could do with a particular key, I play the root note, and then I try every single scale that has that note in it. And one time I played your A major 7th chord. And of course that is your dominant A skip. And you have your F sharp minor pentatonic. That works great over that. But then I also discovered if I wanted to do the 2-note per string thing, besides breaking apart the A major scale, I had discovered doing a C sharp, I know this sounds weird, C sharp minor pentatonic, which is this. Get this tone in your head. So I'm going to force that, well, it doesn't even need to be forced, over an A note. And you get this, there's no A in that scale, but you have the major 7th. So, kind of cool, huh? Yeah, so between that, and then of course you have your, your F sharp minor pentatonic. Just gives you a whole bunch of different options and things you can mess around with. Anyway, thanks for watching another segment of Inside the Gig Bag. All right, we're back.
You're real pro at this.
Yeah, I've been doing this for a while now,
Now, how did you get into it? How did you get into playing?
Oh, well.
I don't want to go through the whole history.
No. Well, get into play. I played instruments since I was a kid, and I'm glad. No one ever asked me a question.
Yeah,
You're the only person
started?
that's ever been on my show that's asked me a question. This is great. I started very young. I had, between 4 and 5 years old. My mom was really into music. They used to put me to sleep playing records. And
really?
My mom sang a bit with big bands. She would get up, not professionally, but she had a very good voice where the bands would get up, ask her to come up and sing with them. I had a toy drum set that I bashed through all the heads. I had a toy guitar that I played. But even as a kid, and this is really funny because I have a picture of it. I post it every Christmas, from the 60s. I'm in front of a silver Christmas tree, and I'm holding this Roy Rogers guitar left-handed. I was left-handed. So, I went through a whole bunch of different things. I played stand-up bass throughout my school years.
Now, did you try to play right-handed?
Well, funny you say that. When I was playing the stand-up bass, I didn't know the difference. Like, I would play that thing, and I could never get really good dexterity happening, and I couldn't figure out why. And then I'd go home and I'd pick up a guitar, an old acoustic I had, and hold it left-handed. I never even thought about, well, geez, I should restring the stand-up bass and play it with this hand because that would make sense. But, I was in high school, or junior high and stuff. So by the time I got done with that, I played drums from the ages of 10. I was into big band music. I met Gene Krupa, the legendary jazz.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah, I met him before he passed away. He played right at a Holiday Inn in Meriden, Connecticut. And
wow.
He was my idol because I loved, Benny Goodman, sing, sing, sing. You know, Gene doing the whole
So
drum.
you could play drums if you had to play drums.
Well, I could get through it still a little bit, but I've lost all my drum skills. But I won a scholarship from the Hartford Conservatory of Music.
Wow.
I was a rudiment drummer. I was taught by the drum teacher that was in the Hartford Symphony Orchestra. So, but one day I was jamming with some guys. I had the drum set at my house. I was in junior high. They were in high school. And the guitar player had a Guild guitar, hollow body, and he left it out. He didn't put it in the case. He left it out, just leaned against the amp. And after he left, he had this old 1970s Big Muff fuzz box.
Oh, yeah, I had one of those.
Yeah, and I turned the guitar on, and it was a righty, but I held it upside down, and I hit a low E, played a couple notes, and then that was it. For some reason, something.
But it was a right-handed guitar.
It was a right-hand guitar, and I just played a couple notes on the low E, and with the fuzz box on, and I said, "Oh my God,
that made you sound great."
Yeah, this is what I wanted to do. I just fell in love with it instantly, and within a month, I dropped my drum scholarship. I was out of drums, and then I started on guitar, and I've never looked back. So from early 14 on, but you got understand that. I do everything obsessed. I can't do everything like lightly. When I started playing guitar, I was in my room 24 hours a day playing guitar. That's just the way I am.
So you knew what you were going to do.
Yeah, I knew. I didn't have any friends. Even Andy didn't like me too much. he tolerated me, but I had very few. I never went out on the weekends, really, to speak of. I just sat in my room and practiced, and then I was out playing professionally by the time I was 16 years old.
Around the Hartford area?
Yeah, I was in my first gig was on Park Street at a place called the Night Gallery Cafe. And the Night Gallery, which was the weirdest thing, here I am in junior high, I had to get a note. I had to get a note from my
because you
parents.
had to be 21 to go in.
Yeah, well, no, it wasn't that. The club was strippers during the day, and they had bands at night. So I didn't let my parents know that there were girl dancers during the day. So they gave me a note to go play. Yeah, it's okay, Jimmy comes and plays at your club.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was fun. But that started my whole thing. I just started and, it was a nonstop thing. But
did you ever think of just learning to play right-handed, or right off the bat was left and that's it?
I took a couple lessons, and the first teacher that I had tried to get me to play right-handed because he knew what a nightmare I was probably going to have, or he just thought he couldn't teach a lefty player. And I can't do anything guitar-wise right-handed. I could barely hold anything, and the pick feels weird. I am so left-handed when it comes to playing guitar. And I've had a couple parents talk to me about this, which is why I think it's great that you built a left-handed guitar and you actually have a couple lefties in your arsenal, because I've had a situation where parents say, what should I do? He's really left-handed. And I'm very honest with them. I tell them, if he's left-handed, let him play guitar left-handed, because I would have never become the guitar player. If I was forced to play right-handed,
you don't think you'd accomplish?
I would have never accomplished what I accomplished being a left-handed guitarist. So there was no choice in the matter. I was lefty, and that was the way it was going to be. But, and I recommend that. But I find, and that's why I'm so happy that you've went into building some left-handed guitars. I find that it's so difficult to get left-handed instruments. It always was, even back when I was playing.
Oh yeah.
As I said, my uncle was a rep at Ovation Guitars. He was the accountant there for Ovation, and I was able to get my first acoustic guitar from Ovation when they had the shiny plastic backs and everything. Yeah. And I got one that happened to drop on the floor. So I got it at, practically nothing. But that started my whole thing, and then I got an Ovation Electric. But, I found a lefty Strat later on. But as I progressed and wanting to get more and more guitars, I found, getting left-handed guitars was a long wait, especially like when I started to look into getting Gibsons. Like if you were to order a Gibson guitar, it was left-handed. It could have got into, almost a year wait.
And expensive.
And expensive, but yeah, everything was an additional charge being lefty. But the thing is that they do them on a mass production. Like they're not doing what you do, like building a one-on-one, putting they're on a mass line, and then at some point, a year or so down the road or whatever, they decide to run a batch of lefties.
Right.
So the lefties get built. It's not like you call up, hey, I want a lefty. Okay, stop. You know, we're going to build a lefty for Jimi Bell.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen. So I think it's great. Let me ask you something. Getting back to your amazing work, do you find it a challenge at all building a lefty?
I got to tell you, I had a couple when I first started making them years ago. I'm so acclimated to do a righty that on the lefty, you got to switch this around. I had it going the other way.
Yeah.
Well,
you didn't have to because I know guys that, when Jimi Hendrix just took the guitar, even though he restrung it, he just, he played a Strat upside down. The pickups angles still were the same as a righty. So he got some incredible, believe it or not, because of the Strat angle of the pickups being that way. It really changed the tone of the guitar after he restrung it lefty.
Yeah.
But still,
but
you're
there's
correct.
Certain things
you
like
get used to
the bridge. You got to remember the bridge. You got to remember the nut. You got to just remember all these little things when you're making it.
I'm glad you brought that up because I did want to talk to you about that. Now, and nobody understand. I don't think a lot of people, unless you're into guitar building or guitar repairing, that understands about neck length and intonation and all that. You have to have a certain measurement between the nut and the bridge.
You have
to. Yeah, scale length is what we're talking here.
You make a template up.
Yeah, and that changes per what bridge you decide to do. So
exactly.
And what if you decide to do like a Fender style neck, you'll have the bridge. I think
it's 25.
Back.
Right. It's longer.
It's longer, and the Gibson, where the fretting is closer, the bridge comes up more.
Right.
So you have. Is this a regular Telly style neck?
Yep. So that's 12 3/4 to the center. To the 12th fret is 12 3/4. 12 3/4. Now, on this bridge, you don't have a lot of play, which I mean is I got to make sure that on this is 24. I forgot 24 and a half. 24 3/4. So this has to be 12 3/8. It's half a 3/4. Okay, well, whatever. And that point has to be pretty much right on the money. I can only go so much with this back and forth.
Right.
You see that? It's just a little bit. So you really want to get it really close. And the E is always a little closer, and the lower you go, it's a little farther back. That's just how it works. On this, I have a lot of play.
Yeah, you could. Yeah,
I can bring it back. I can bring it forward.
Well, that's a good thing about Fender saddles too. But even on my Floyd Rose here, I learned how to do some of the intonation myself. And usually, like on my guitars, it's a stagger thing. I know it's usually the low E's back further than the A's a little up, then the D's forward, then the G goes back further. You know.
It's a heavier string, so it's got to go back. It's higher strings, they're a little forward.
Yeah.
Just so it evens off.
Yeah, and it's true. You don't have a lot of play on a bridge or even like a regular Gibson Tune-O-Matic bridge like that.
Absolutely.
So you got to be dead nuts on that thing in order to or you're going to be in a lot of trouble.
And it doesn't always work out. Because I know I talk to other builders and stuff. You got to have these posts and everything set up, lined up with everything, and then do your drilling and stuff like. Because if you're off a little bit, you're screwed.
Let's talk about this right now because I want to get into this part. Let's go through the process of you building a guitar. All right, I understand. All right, so
we got the body.
You got the body.
Body looks great. You wet it to see how it really looks.
Is that prior to doing any sanding or cutting?
Once I got the block, I clean it up. I wet it because I want to see what it's going to look like.
Before you take any
Before I
excess
do
glue
anything.
or anything. That's,
The whole thing is, for me, it's got to be really stand out cosmetically.
Okay.
Because if it doesn't, it gets painted. All right? Because
you don't paint a lot of guitars.
No, I don't.
No, I've noticed
Only
that.
on order. Only if somebody wants them.
Yeah.
I don't like to paint them. I like to show the wood as much as, and that's why a lot of my guitars don't have a lot of there's no pick guards. I like to see the whole.
Yeah.
If I do all the work.
I get it.
So now I got a square block. I got my neck. I cut my neck up, cut it on the bandsaw, shape it up, feels good, and cut the 10 millimeter, whatever they have for the holes, and set that up. I drop the neck into the pocket. Okay, now, the angle of the neck is crucial. When it sits in the pocket, it's probably about 3 or 4 degrees, just a little up.
Right.
Okay? If it's too high,
Yeah, then your bridge is up.
and everything gets thrown up. But
yeah.
not only that, the tone, everything looks, it doesn't, you wouldn't like it because it doesn't play nice. You get that in there, it sets up, and it's got to be snug. You can't have any play. I've had it where it had play and had to do it over.
I don't even tell you how bad my 70s Strats were with the 3 bolts. The 3-bolt necks from the 70s.
That's what I have the hard
guitar
time.
neck could go back and forth like this. It was terrible.
So, but you got to make it really snug, and then you put it in there. So it's so snug that I can lay out my bridge. So it's not going to move because it's really snug. I didn't glue it yet. You know, you have it on the bench, and you have your little jigs to hold it upright.
Right.
Then you lay your bridge in here. You find out exactly how it's going to. These strings have to match up. They can't be over here.
Yeah,
they can't be over there.
And they can't be falling off the edge of the neck either.
So you line that up, and once you get that line up, you drill your holes. Now, drilling the holes, you got to make sure you don't just drill a bit right away. You drill a little pinhole to find out. Then you do the next one, and then you do. It's probably about a 1/2 inch for the post, and it cleans it out nice. Because you can't just take one and just go plow because it moves. You set it in there, you put the bridge, then you take I have an old string, I line it up, looks good. Okay, so now the bridge is set and the neck is set. Now I don't have any problem now. Now I know I can put my pickups in. You get a center point, everything has a center point.
Right.
It's a 2 1/4, 2 3/16 is here sometime, but 2 1/4. You set it up, you mark it. You want to bring this close to here, and obviously you want to bring that close to this. People like it. I like to leave a little bit so you can see the wood. So
I like the separation because of the way I pick.
Then you router it out. Take the router. I mean, I have a template.
Right.
Templates are key to everything building a guitar, bass guitar. You got to have templates.
Right. Yeah. Do you have a template for all your different body shapes?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I have them all. You have to have templates. Because you can't just, you're going to be able to build one. No, it's a different story.
Have you found that after you did some cutting with a template, like you lined everything up and then did the neck that something was off? Have you ever had something like that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it was
I've
like
had it where the route was off.
Really?
And then I had,
Let me ask you this. Like you're talking, just because you mentioned this earlier before we even started taping, you were talking about different neck widths for people that have bigger hands or want a wider neck.
I have bigger hands, so I like to have a little.
Now, what do you do in a situation where you have a wider fingerboard and you have to? What do you do for the bridge and everything else? Because obviously the string spacing is going to be.
You have to get either. They do make a bigger bridge. You have to shop around for it. It's tough to find, but you can find a bridge that has. The best bridge for that is Shaler. Now, Shaler it's the most expensive. It's like $200, but they have a screw that makes it up and back for tonation, but they have a roller screw that brings it this way, and that is key. I can put roughly a 2 1/2 inch. This is 2 3/16, so I could make almost 2 1/2 inch, and that roller swings this over.
It brings them side to side?
It's unbelievable. Yeah. And it's precision, and it comes in brass, and it comes in black, and it comes in chrome. But it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. You can't really mess up. But the problem is, I have to have a custom pickup made.
Yes, yes.
Because now the poles are different.
Yeah, you can't.
Or
Your string, if your string is a bigger neck, you're off your poles.
Right. Otherwise, use a cover, complete cover like an EMG.
Yeah.
So then you don't know.
Right.
It doesn't show.
What pickup do you get? Like if you happen to do a wider neck like that, does Duncan make like a pickup with
the blackout. Just completely black. Like I can only compare it to like EMG. Just
Oh,
cover.
okay.
No,
I know what you're saying.
And some other, but there's no poles.
So yeah, I know for a fact that that they do make a pickup, like a normal Seymour Duncan pickup will also sometimes have problem on the spacing of certain Floyds and stuff, because that's why they make a pickup, especially for a Floyd that's a little bit wider in the back.
It's an F style, they call it.
Yes.
And that's got to be a little wider here than here. Just got to be open just a little, not much. You're talking about 16. Just so everything sits over the poles. You don't want to get a guitar when you look at it and then all of a sudden this is like this or whatever. You want everything right over the poles.
Do you like when you get down to when you're lining everything up? Say you got a guitar like with the dots and stuff. Do you go for to try to get so the dots are like really nicely in between the strings? So like.
Yeah. Well, I go dead center.
Yeah.
Always dead center. The markers could be, some people just like a pin marker. They don't really like a lot. Some people don't even like dots.
Yeah. What's it like making a neck? Because that's very interesting. The shaping, to take a neck. How much handwork do you do on it? Do you take regular sand and keep going like that with it after a while?
I'm so acclimated to the bandsaw. You know what a bandsaw is, right?
Yeah, of course.
So when you get your neck, you pick your wood out, and if it's laminated, you laminate the wood, whatever, and then you cut your angle. Again, I have templates for that.
Oh, okay.
For the headstock to go on an angle, especially on a Les Paul. That you don't need it because there's no angle. You just scoop it out. This you have an angle, but once you get it, you put it on the bandsaw, and now you have to freestyle it. Okay, so if I wouldn't suggest you doing it because you're not used to it. You can hurt yourself. But you just put it on an angle and you cut that. It's square, and that blade is cutting this off.
Right, you're cutting. You're starting with.
Yeah, and so you can
the edge.
You just cut it finely, and to mark. You mark it so you don't go all the way down here. You stop around about the 14th fret.
But you have to blend that. So you're like even on this neck. You know where to stop because you're doing like a little V blend. Even on that, you're.
Well, the V blend comes with the cutting, with the carving.
Right, but there is a point where
I should have brought a rough neck to show you.
Oh, that would have been nice.
I didn't even think of it, but you cut it, and again, you got to use your head because you got too much. You cut the truss rod. Yeah. Right, so you got to cut it, and then you say like, maybe you like a thin neck. So now I got to measure as I go along when I'm cutting it. Now I take it off, and you take a rasp, and you cut all the crap off it.
Right.
All right. Now it's rough, and then you take either a palm sander or you take some sort of a sander or a hand sander, whatever you feel comfortable with, and you just start shaving it until you get that point.
Wow.
But so I'm telling you, it's only through experience. Not every neck comes out great. When I first did them, they didn't come out.
But you're at the point now. You've been making guitars for so long. You've got a good feel of.
Right when I pick it up, I say,
you'll say
good.
And you go from even the lowest point. The reason I'm asking this is because I happen to have one of several left-handed SGs, and I happen to notice I have one of them. I don't know what it's styled after, maybe 62, but I have something called a reverse taper. So in other words, the neck isn't thinner down here, it's a bit thicker, then it gets thinner as my hand goes back here.
That is a reverse, that's unusual.
Yeah, I have, that SG has that. It has, so it's a little bit thicker here, and then as I work down, it gets skinny right to the back here. So that's called the reverse taper, right?
Yeah. I've never made it that way, but I kind of understand that because you're playing mixing chords on this end.
Well, yeah, and when you think about a reverse taper, to me, as a guitar player, that makes sense, especially like I play my guitar, you know, pretty low. I'm not one of these guys that plays it up here just so I could play, you know, whatever I do sitting down. I like it down low. But, you know, so I'd almost rather have the guitar a little chunky here, because when the guitar is low and I'm making my way up here, if that neck is sticking out this way, you know, that much further.
I never thought of that. That's a nice idea. That's a nice touch.
Yeah, see, look what we did here today.
But not only that,
I changed the whole design.
You get more support here. You got better support on this, so if you drop the neck, it's got, you know, it's got the little bit on there.
So, listen, you'll put my name on the sign?
Yeah.
Occhineri and Bell? Okay.
You got enough notoriety. You know.
So
But
I want to,
see, now that's something I never knew.
I want to ask you something about this right here. I want to ask you about, after you cut the body and you start sanding, I want, how much sanding goes into the body?
Not a real lot. You throw through the you throw through the planer. You know what a planer is? It takes
Yeah.
So it's 1 3/4. Some people like it 1 5/8, 1 11/16, whatever. When it goes through, I take it out, and you don't really want to sand too much because you're closing up everything. Basically, you want to scrape it, and when you scrape it, it opens up everything. It's better.
Right.
I sand it around here, that's going to be painted. But whenever you get a piece of wood, if you take a scraper, say about 4-inch piece, and you scrape it nice and clean, and then you could touch it up with maybe 300 or 220 grit.
So do you do a lot of body sanding? Is there a lot of hand sanding?
Finishing, there is.
There is.
Finishing. You got, this thing probably has 12 coats, sanded off 6 coats, it probably got 6 left on there. Because every time you spray it, you sand. So
all right, let's ask the big question here. How many hours go into one guitar?
That's a tough question.
No, it's not. I'm sorry, Andy, I can't read that regardless.
No, but you got to realize.
Yeah, no, I was gonna.
You got to realize, like, when I do that, okay, so this guitar is pretty much all set. Say there's like 30 hours, maybe if that. I don't even know, really. But between the neck and everything, if there's no mistakes, it's probably about 20 hours, if there's no mistakes, okay? Which I mean, if there's any chip out when it goes through the machine, if you overcut it, or, you know, you got a gouge in the wood, you have to sand out. There's all these little things.
You find them. Do you find things at the end a lot of times, like when you complete a guitar and you go, oh no, you know, I didn't see that.
If you see it, if I see it, you're going to see it.
Yeah, well,
and you're buying it.
Yeah, well, that'll be the first thing that someone sees. Like,
absolutely.
If you try to, well, here's a nice guitar, and then they're going to say, hey, what's this? You know,
it can play like a D'Angelico or something. And,
hey,
what is that? Yeah, it's like, all right, it's not going to affect the sound.
It's not going to affect. Well, here, just take a black magic marker. And
but it's true. I mean, it happens to all the builders. I've had it where I finished and I'm walking,
and you hit it,
and it hit the side of the table saw or something, you know. So now it's back in the store. So now it's back in the shop. I mean, so now this has got to be fixed.
Right.
You got to fill it. You got to sand it, and
like this. You got a ding right here.
Yeah. Okay. So now you got to. I didn't do it.
Yeah. I know. Who did it.
I think Mike did it. But now I put it aside and just fill it. And now I'm starting something else.
Right.
So it's hard. I don't work on one all the way through.
Let me ask you something, because I do have to. I want you to give plugs to your upcoming guitar shows. I know you got things coming up, and that's really important because people need to see these guitars at the show. Can you give me that V there? I mean, the Explorer.
Yeah.
I am like. I used to play V's and Explorers, and
it's heavy.
Oh. It is. Now, see, this is just so beautiful.
I made one for my nephew, and I said, you know something? I'm not a big Explorer fan, but I said I'm going to do this one. I'm going to border it with wangi wood for the border, and then maple all the way through.
This is insane.
This is pretty guitar. I liked it.
Oh my God! Look at. I mean, I know the cameras can't pick this up, but the wood. He's got wood binding here. That's absolutely gorgeous. That just, you know. I mean, this
sometimes when you're working on them, and then you know it's going to come out good.
Yeah.
And then say, wow, this is really going to, I'm going to take my time. I'm going to make sure everything's perfect on it. You know?
How is it tricky? You know, binding. I love binding on guitars, and I have
binding.
that's a little
It
bit.
makes the guitar.
It does, but it's a little bit of a difficult task.
It is very
you gotta.
difficult.
So when you're doing a guitar that's got binding, you have to leave a lip. Correct? You got to.
You take the router, you shape
take
it.
a router all the way around.
Roughly 3/8 by a 1/4 inch deep, a little deeper. And you do the binding before you put the neck on.
Oh, you do?
You have to.
Oh, that's right.
You have to. And then when it all sets up, you just got to be really careful with the binding.
Let me ask you
Because
something.
you could mess up the whole, because the top is done.
Right.
Okay? So now I set the router up and I go around slow and take little bites and then it fits good. Then you take your wood and you fit each piece. That's all.
Do you do like, have you done any, like, with the same type binding that you put on neck, like the little plastic or whatever it is?
I've done the plastic, yeah.
Yeah.
I had it on a couple of them.
What is the same process happen when you're doing the binding on a neck? You got to leave a little, you got to cut like that to put the same.
Yeah.
How thick is the binding? Or is this just?
It could be anything.
Oh,
I made
okay.
it heavier. Sometimes I do wood binding on the neck, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But it's usually plastic. You can buy it, and you super glue. You tape it up and super glue it, and you just don't make a mess. You try to keep it as clean as possible.
Yeah.
The wood binding is totally different because you have to cut each piece. Okay, it doesn't come like that. I get the long boards, I cut it, and then you got to
gotta shape 'em.
Around here, you have to cut this piece and then fit it in. Okay, and again, as long as it fits in nice, you do it.
Yeah.
And with the binding, you can heat up and you can bend. That you can't bend.
Right, wood you can't.
So you got to cut everything on the bandsaw, then you shape it, and you fit it, and you shape it on the sander, fit it.
I would last 2 seconds in your shop
Yeah.
doing that. I'm sorry.
But again, it's not the first one I made. You do it over and over.
Yeah.
You know exactly how to cut time and how to do it.
Before we go and about the guitar shows that you have coming up.
June 1st up in Framingham, Mass, at the Sheridan. And there's other builders. There's a lot of builders out there like me. They're just as good, if not better.
Well, you do a lot of these. So I've been to the one in West Hartford. There's
Oh yeah,
I mean
that was a good one.
yeah. I mean I come to these. I like seeing what you got. And I guess one of the last questions I'd like to ask you. I don't know if you want to talk about. If someone was to contact you and they want a guitar, first off, how do they go about that? Do you have a website?
Just call me up.
Do you have a website?
I do, but basically, I have my Facebook page.
Your Facebook page.
Just call me, say, Pete, people call me up. They want to have a guitar made.
You don't mind people bothering you?
I don't mind people bothering, but I don't want somebody just constantly calling, and then not do the guitar.
Right.
Okay. But when people do call, especially young people, I have them call. I says, I get this all the time. Probably you do too. Can I come and watch you make a guitar? And I said, no, you can't.
Yeah.
You can't, because first of all, some days I don't want to. It's like maybe some days you don't like to play, right?
Yeah. It's a place of business.
Right.
That's not even right.
I said, but you can come in and get a list of questions, and I'll save you a lot of time on.
Have you let a customer come in and pick the wood? Do you give them lay out pieces of wood and say, I want that piece?
I'll do if it's gonna do something seriously. But it's got to be serious about it. But everything else, I said, if you have a question, I have people call me up and say, well, what kind of finish? What kind of wood? What kind of glue? What kind of pickups do you like? I'll answer those questions over the phone, or I'll help them out. Especially if it's a young kid. I like to see and help them out.
Last question I want to ask you. Are you able to say what your cheapest do you have a certain price range? Do you have a price?
Basically,
like from your lowest thing
from the lowest, probably about 800 up to probably 1,500, somewhere that double.
Yeah, so there's
I can't stress this enough when the guys come to do our show. You got to price them reasonably.
Yeah,
because you don't have a PRS name, you don't have a Gibson name, you don't have people don't know you.
No,
they don't know me. I can't say that. I had one guy. You're asking too little for your guitar. No, I'm not. I'd rather have.
I want people to have them.
Right.
I want people to buy them.
I want people on stage.
As soon as you told me your price range 8 to 15, I was just going to tell you that's like like so reasonable compared to people's.
It is.
I mean, it really is, especially for an independent contractor, because I am totally with you on that. That you want people to like. I've seen people that have make guitars that aren't and they have them priced where. Okay, I understand this is this and this. You put this much work in it.
3,200?
Yeah, it's like, and what's going to happen to that person if they play the guitar for a little bit and then try to sell it? They're not going to get it because it doesn't say Gibson or Fender on it right off the bat. It's like
the guitar market is so flooded. It's crazy.
Now it is. Yeah.
It's when we were growing up. Fender, Ibanez, on the electric side. And Gibson,
yeah.
And what's another one? But we didn't have them all. Now,
yeah, it's just insane.
It's ridiculous. How many times you see on the website that a guy owns like our age and has 40 guitars on the wall?
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Well, Peter, a lot of times when I do these interviews, and I've had mostly my friends or just basically people that I'm very, very well acquainted with. I thought that this was a great one. I had a blast talking to you.
I could talk to you all the time.
Yeah.
I also want to know, like, who did you really like growing up playing guitar?
Oh, well, I had three. It was Johnny Winter, then I discovered Richie Blackmore, and then I discovered Al Di Meola. Those were the three guitar players where I molded my style. And then, of course, along came, Eddie and stuff. I think a lot of people don't even realize how, I'm much older. So, like, I already knew certain things. Like when Eddie came out and was doing Eruption, and I heard that end part, I already knew I said, oh, there's no way he's playing that. He's doing this with this because somebody taught me that trick.
Right. That's what I mean, yeah.
Yeah, it was like one of those things, that, you just after all these years. But
I always loved Johnny Winter. I always thought he was the most unsung hero.
Yeah, Johnny was my favorite guitar player. The Johnny Winter live album with It's My Own Fault, Good Morning Little Schoolgirl, and Jumpin' Jack Flat, Meantown Blues.
Style of finger picking and style.
It's the best.
Yeah. He was one of the guitar players I couldn't try to copy. I didn't know where he was coming from.
And the fact that he did it with a thumb pick was even more mind-blowing. I don't even know what a thumb pick.
And I liked his slide playing.
Yeah, he was great. Hey, man.
Hey,
thank you so much.
We'll do it again sometime.
Absolutely. We'll have a lot more to talk about. Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, thank you so much for watching Beyond the Strings. I am your host, Jimi Bell. We'll see you next time.